Okay, this is a fairly short chapter or short lecture, I should say. What does that one say? This meeting is being recorded. Just do this. Okay, so it's a fair, I shortened this lecture to fit it into the classroom and it's not that long of a chapter anyway, so. Control of global business. So we're talking about strategies. So companies, and this is not companies just, not for just companies that are global, but for any company should have a mission statement. What's a mission statement? A mission statement is kind of like, why does a company exist? What kind of thing does this company solve? And what are its not financial goals, but what does it want to achieve through its existence, right? It's a written statement why a company exists and what it plans to accomplish, but we're not talking about goals such as we want to make this much money, or we want to be profitable, or we want to have market share. That's part of the goals of the strategic goals of a company, but the mission statement doesn't state that. It's usually one of the first things that you see on a company website, right? Sometimes they're just short slogans too, right? Yes, exactly. A mantra, yeah. They provide general guidelines for the firm's strategy and decision-making processes, right? Useful in the monitoring of the firm's performance against its stated missions and goals. So it will have goals, and then but the mission has to be kind of always the high-level purpose of the company, why it exists, and what the values are too, right? Like Google for the longest time. Well, Google's mission is something like provide information instantly or quickly to anybody anywhere in the world, right? That was, I don't know if it's still that, but it was something to that effect for a long time. Other examples of a mission statement is a fire department or police department. Its mission might be to serve and protect. That's why they exist, right? And then they have values. Google's value for the longest time, and I'm sure they still use it, but it was a big thing. It was called, they would say, "Don't be evil," right? Not sure if they really held up to it, but they hopefully do in most parts, right? Shareholders versus stakeholders. Shareholders are the key strategic purpose of a business is to maximize financial returns for its owners or shareholders, right? If it's a public company, it's all the stockholders, right? Anybody that has invested in that company and gets returns, that's a shareholder. If you have any stock out there, you're a shareholder, right? Stakeholders, on the contrary, are those any party that benefits from the existence of a company or that is affected by the decisions a company makes. So there are various groups such as employees, customers. Who else that is not on the slides? Who else is a stakeholder of an organization, of a for-profit organization?
Neighborhoods around the factories of said company?
Yes, local communities, right? Yes, who else? So employees, customers, communities. Yes.
Does the government count as a stakeholder
Yes.
since they have a vested interest in the firm making a lot of money to tax them?
Taxes, yeah, absolutely, the government, yeah. The government, and then there's another one. Suppliers. So other companies who this company buys supplies from, right? So those are all stakeholders. So while a company's main goal might be to make shareholders happy, they also need to think about the stakeholders because, without customers, you're not going to have a company. Without employees, you're not going to have a company, and so forth. So the stakeholder model in strategy formulation is, how does strategy formulation affect? You have to think about how all these people or these groups are affected by decisions a company makes, right? Employees are affected, where you have to make a decision. Maybe your profits are lower and the shareholders are upset and they want you to increase profit margins. And you're manufacturing and you have high labor costs. Maybe you're trying to cut down labor costs and lay off employees. Not only are the laid off employees going to be upset, the ones that get to stay are upset too, because they might have to work harder. Or now they don't feel secure about their job anymore, so they're gonna look for something else, and they're not going, not, maybe in the beginning they'll do their best, but later on, when they see, hey, there's a job market out there, they might not be, so they'll be stressed and everything, right? You can raise the prices, then customers aren't going to be happy. They might just buy less products if you increase prices, or even worse, they'll go to the competition. Right. Shareholders, again, those are initially the ones I brought up, saying, hey, profits are low, what's going on here? You have to do something, because they're not gonna be happy, they might pull out their investments. Communities where it does business, you have a bad reputation if you do treat the community poorly, you might actually lose customers. A lot of times customers and employees are part of the community, right? Creditors, you gotta pay your debt. And suppliers and vendors, you have to treat them nicely and not lowball them, because they might not keep you as their most favorite customer, but they might sell to your competition because they treat them better. And they also only have a limited supply. So it's a juggling game. So there are different types of plans. There are operational plans, tactical plans, and strategic plans. Strategic plans are really the high-level 5-year and more plans. What do we want to achieve? Long-term, really long-term. Tactical plans are 1 to 3 per year plans. They're formulated for implementing strategic goals, right? Whatever the goals this plan say, that's how they're talking about implementation. Operational plan is where it all really is happening, right? They really implement everything, but they're short, the short-term things, and they all build upon each other. Year 1, this will happen. Year 2, this will happen, and so forth. And they all, this plan has to support this plan, which has to support this plan. Obviously, they're all intertwined. Okay. Oh, I meant to take this out, but. Prospectors, defenders. Miles and Snow, they came up with this typology, and they divided it into these four groups: prospectors, defenders, reactors, and analyzers. Prospectors, they extend their success through global expansion and finding new market opportunities. They want to go big, right? They reach out to every corner that they can. Defenders, they concentrate on existing operations and defend their home turf. Let's concentrate on what we're doing here and put all our efforts in here. That's more important, right? Reactors respond to strategic action initiated by competitors. Those, strategic plans, they will see, oh, the competition, what are they doing? They're taking over some of our market share. Let's react to this. And then analyzers take a middle ground between being prospectors and defenders. So they're not doing either, but kind of in the middle. They do protect the home turf, but also look for global opportunities. Any questions about that? These are just how they look at the strategies and formulate them, right? You have to coordinate, and we will write about this in our papers, by the way, in our country papers. You will write about legal, political, and economic aspects of a given market, right? But then you also not focus on our papers, but the technological environment is important too, right? And other impediments that may have an effect on how you can coordinate or implement your plan in that local market. And this is, again, you have to juggle all this, and you have to comply with legal and even with, you can't ignore the economic part of the country either, right? Knowledge management and systems, different types of knowledges that exist in a company's tactic knowledge. Knowledge is informal and in nature difficult to communicate. It could be somebody's experience and they just have a gut feeling that this is it's like this, and you can't really communicate that to somebody who doesn't have that experience. Explicit knowledge is knowledge that is codifiable and easy to communicate or write down. And absorptive absorptive capacity is the ability of organizations to recognize, assimilate, and apply the new knowledge. Right, so it's a little philosophical here almost, right? Yeah. What type of knowledge exists, and you do need to communicate knowledge. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have within an organization. If you don't communicate it, you're not putting it to use. Diego?
So tacit knowledge is more like colloquial, like know-hows.
Yeah, kind of. You could say it that way, right?
Like people from there are the only ones who could really like describe what's going on.
Yeah, and only those will understand. Somebody else might not understand it.
Yeah.
Because they don't have share that same experience, and it's difficult to communicate to others who don't have that experience, right?
Yeah.
Control systems, you have bureaucratic control systems and rules and regulations promulgated within a global business. The larger the company is, the more bureaucracy is, and the older the company is, the more bureaucracy there's going to be. If you look at companies like IBM, they almost function like a government institution, right? They have a lot of bureaucracy. Certain things are spelled out a certain way because they have done it for years and years and years. And they kind of know what works. Sometimes they have to make changes, which is another topic which we're not going to discuss much, but it's called change management. We have to implement change. How do you manage that, right? But that's a different, but it's difficult with bureaucratic controls to implement change. Interpersonal controls involves executives, so the top level managers engaging in personal contact with subordinates in a way of managing an organization where the C-level managers are kind of involved with the people that are in operations and that deal with day nuances or deal with customers and things like that. It's interpersonal. And output controls and measures involves establishing specific goals on given metrics and then measuring if these were reached or not. And why were they not reached, or why did we go over them? Maybe readjust the goals. I'm going to skip this one because we're running low on time here. Organizational culture and the change control function. So the personality in a given organization, its shared norms and values are important, especially if you have to implement change, right? Because it's difficult to change your values, right? Types of organization culture, there are strong cultures that can either support or resist change. Some cultures embrace change, some kinds of cultures resist. A lot of times human beings are first reaction to change is no, I don't want to change. I hate the term, if it ain't, what is it? If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Yeah, what about, we're just trying to improve it. It's not broken, but it's not that great what we're doing. Let's improve it. And there's another system that another philosophy that a lot of companies employ, which wasn't part of this chapter, is something called continuous improvement. You always look for improvement, right? Yeah. And then you don't have to worry about gigantic change because you're changing a little bit at a time, right? You shouldn't wait until things fall apart before you implement change. Weak cultures provide little guidance to employees. When there's change, you have to support employees and guide them. Yes, Diego?
I just noticed that as a general trend, as like the company gets bigger and as it gets older, it just becomes more and more like
Bureaucratic.
bureaucratic.
Exactly, it does, yeah.
Like even Google now is starting to which is known for its innovative community and employee
Yeah.
base is slowly becoming more bureaucratic as well.
It is, and it has to, because when it's really big, you have to have more controls in place in a way. Anyway, let me just finish this here. Organizational change involves implementation of different business or cultural path for an organization. Could be any type of change, right? That's it. Oh, I did it. Okay, let me go ahead and stop the slides. Stop the recording.